All right. Hello, everyone. We, for restorative today, are going to set up pretty much one setup and leave it as is and kind of work our way around that setup. And so what you'll want to have would be like a stack of pillows or couch cushions. Um, and we'll create a little ramp with that, kind of like you were leaning back in a recliner. And you can do that a couple of different ways. You could take a block, some books, or a folded blanket in the shape of a block. And then you would just lean one of your pillows or a few pillows on top of that so you have your head elevated. So the head's going to go here, spine here, and sits bones on the mat. And then you can make that ramp as high as you want it to be. You can stack multiple pillows, so it'll depend on how much of an incline you want. What I would suggest to gauge that is to kind of take stock of your knees and your hips. How mobile are they? How resistant to stretch are they? And if they're pretty resistant and feel like your range of motion is fairly small-ish, then you probably want a higher ramp. So you'll want more pillows. You want your head to be a little bit higher. The one other thing you might grab would be a blanket. Blanket can be nice as padding underneath the knees. And if you get cold or just extra weight on the belly is always kind of nice to add. That's how I'm going to use my blanket today. So I invite you to do the same, but it's just an invitation. It's not a requirement. And so we'll start off by leaning back on our recliner, however you've had it set up. And if you're still setting it up, keep going until you've got it, the Goldilocks effect for you. So again, sits bones on your mat. Lean your low back, your upper back, and the back of your head back onto your recliner. And then to start off, we're just going to take the soles of the feet together and the knees out wide. And the reason I said you want multiple pillows here is maybe you slide some pillows underneath the outer edges of the knees so that you can really truly support your hips and your knees as you start to settle into the shape. We're going to take about 5 minutes to hold each shape. So some days we take more or less about the same. Today we're going to be here for, in each shape, just a little bit longer. And if you want to add any weight to the belly with a blanket or a stack of pillows over the belly or the pelvis, you can do that. Just take a moment to assess your current shape. Do you need to add any props? Do you need to make any adjustments to your props? And then settling back. And then notice how you've placed your arms. You might, if you want to broaden across the chest and the front of the shoulders, stretch the arms out wide to the sides. You could also take a hand to the belly or a hand to the rib cage and just get that feedback of breathing deep into the body. I invite you to close your eyes here. You could even place a cloth over the eyes to block out extra light. And then start to become aware of your breath. Start to deepen the breath. And what does that even mean? It means see if you can take a little bit longer to inhale. You might count your inhale breath, see how many counts it takes you to inhale fully. Notice what that number is, and then can you see if you can match that to your exhale? So if it takes you 5 or 6 counts to inhale fully, Can you take 5 or 6 counts to exhale? And as the breath gets a little bit slower, start to notice how you feel. And notice if you're holding tension anywhere in the body. Imagine as if you could release all of that tension with each exhalation. So each time you exhale becomes another opportunity to let go. We have about 3 more breaths in this first shape. And then we'll take a pause and just stretch our legs out for about a minute. Okay, so stretch your legs out long. You can stay on your little recliner. Let your legs stretch out. You could point and flex your toes, get a little blood flow back into the knee joints and the hips. And return to your deep belly breathing. And 2 more breaths here. Okay, and we'll set up for our next shape. And you can do this by simply bending the knees and planting the feet. I'm going to give you 2 options. So here's option number 1. Bend the knees and plant the feet. Walk your feet, keep your knees bent and walk your feet wide on your mat, and then drop both of your knees off to your right hand side. Okay, so feet wide, knees bent, both knees off to your right hand side. And then the option to take that right ankle on top of the outer left knee if you want to add a little bit of sensation to the outer left thigh. That's option number 1. Option number two, if you know that your knees are pretty mobile and you don't have any issues with hyper extension in the knee joints, then you could take this left foot all the way back towards the hip so that you're on the top of that left foot. And this becomes a little bit more of a quadricep stretch, so the front of that left thigh. What I'd recommend here is if you're taking this shape, that you choose this only if you can get your ankle flat. Okay, so you could take a peek at my foot. You can see my toes are pointing towards the top of my mat and I'm on the top of my foot. That means I'm not flexing my foot out to the side. Okay, and this is important because the rotation of the foot will affect the sensation in the knee, and that torque that comes from flexing the ankle rotates the knee a little bit undesirably. So you want to keep that knee healthy and happy, and you want to make sure those toes are pointing towards the top of your yoga mat. Okay, and if that doesn't work for your knee, remember, stick with that first option where both of your knees are bent and you're just rotating the knees off to the side. Okay, so choosing the option that works best for you. Again, remember this is a long hold. We're going to be here for 5 minutes. So make good decisions. And then if you need more height underneath your upper back, underneath the back of your head, add more props. If you're taking that variation where you're on the top of your ankle and your ankle is flat, that half hero's pose, this right knee, it can stay bent. You could also stretch it straight out. So it really kind of doesn't matter what you do with that right knee, right leg. And again, to the best of your ability, slow, deep belly breathing. See if you can get your breath moving in and out through your nose. And here, the practice of meditation, which we're doing in the form of asana, so kind of like a mindful movement practice. The way that you can think about this in terms of focusing the mind, which is really what meditation teaches you to do, is focus the mind on something in particular. It's a style of meditation. You can use that counting of the breath in and the counting of the breath out to focus the mind. So it is a meditation technique in essence. We have just about a minute left here to go. Continue breathing slow and deep in and out through the nose. Last 2 deep breaths here. Really mindful exits. Take it slow. If you've got this leg like me in this half heroes pose, you might want to sit up first, roll all of your weight to your right hip, and then free your left leg. And then again, just like we did before, we'll take about a 1-minute break in between sides so you can extend both your legs long, lay back on your recliner. You could point and flex your toes if you like. You can just be still if you'd prefer. Just 1 minute here. We'll start to set up our second side. So beginning to bend the knees and plant the feet. If you're going to take option number 1, remember that knees bent, feet wide on your mat, and then both knees knock off to your left side. You could take the option of placing that left ankle on top of the outer right thigh towards the knee, and that would intensify. Typically, that's going to intensify the sensation along the outer right hip or wherever your tissue is tightest. Okay, so that's option number 1. Both knees remain bent, knees tip off to the left side. And then option number 2, if this is a good choice, if it's a wise choice for your knee, your right knee, you can sit up a little bit, roll the weight towards that left hip and pull that right knee back or the right ankle back. And remember, you need to get your ankle flat. And so the right toes are pointing towards the top of the mat and you're on the top of that ankle. You're not flexing the ankle. If you can't do that shape without flexing the ankle, then it's not the one for you. So skip it and go back to option number 1. Remember, you're going to be here for 5 minutes. It's a long hold, so make sure that you're choosing something sustainable. And even if you get halfway through this shape and you realize, I can't hold this anymore, you can always back out. You can always add more props. You can always modify. And so it's never too late. Especially in these long holds, I always think starting off with less equals more in the end. Less in the end equals more. Because you really want your body to relax on its own and tell you when it's time to deepen and go further. instead of forcing yourself into something that you think is ideal. Return to the breath. Maybe continue counting your inhale, matching that to your exhale. About 4 slow breaths here. Okay, and if you're in that half hero's pose, you might want to press into your elbows and sit up first. Roll all the way down to that left hip and then extend your right leg forward. If you just had both knees bent off to the left side, straightening out through the legs and lying down. Just take a minute here to stretch out through the legs. Actually going to head into a nice long Shavasana. And when I say long, I mean relative to the length of our class. So we'll take 3 minutes for Shavasana today. And so if you're already comfortable where you are, feel free to stay. If you want to add any props or take a very gentle inversion like legs up the wall, you can rearrange your props to make that possible. You can also just lay flat on your back in a very traditional Shavasana-like shape. I'm going to take legs up the wall today. If you've never tried that before and you want to see how I get into it, I slide my mat up to the edge of a wall. I'm just going to use my door. So if you don't have wall space accessible, an easy way to make that happen is to close a door. And then I get into fetal position with my hips against the wall. And then I roll over onto my back and I let my legs kick up, lengthen out. And then I just kind of scoot my hips towards the wall until I feel pretty even. Okay, so just an option. However you're going to settle into Shavasana, begin to make your way there if you haven't done so already. We've got 3 minutes here to settle in, to return to that deep, slow breath in and out through the nose. Maybe let the eyes close. Let the jaw soften. Relax all the muscles of the face. Shavasana. Feel free to stay as long as you like in Shavasana. If you need to move on with your day, start to reawaken the body. Deep breath in and out through the nose. Rolling off to a side. And pressing your way to an upright seat. We'll just take a few moments to close out our practice. So sitting up nice and tall, feel free to support your sits bones on a prop. Shift the shoulders back over the hips. Lift the top of the head up towards the ceiling. Deep breath in through the nose. Long, slow breath out through the nose. Continue breathing on your own. Closing out our practice by bringing the hands together at the heart, bowing the chin into the chest with reverence and gratitude for the practice. May you remember that you will always be okay. May you find a light that guides you and keeps you safe. May you have hope, happiness, and help along the way. Namaste, yogis. Thanks for joining me today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your practice. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or comments. I'm always here for you. Email address is tessa@tessatovar.com, so it's just my name. And take care of yourselves until you come back again soon.